Black Lives Matter protesters crashed a private fundraiser for Hillary Clinton in South Carolina on Wednesday. Now, the activists confronted Clinton about statements she made during a 1996 campaign speech where she was out campaigning for then President Bill Clinton's re-election. So we have a small clip of what happened at the event that we're going to go to, and then we're going to come back and talk about it.
Called black youth superpredators in 1994. Please explain the record. Explain it to us. You owe black people an apology. Excuse us.
So Elliot, as you can see, this was a very small, intimate event. They were fundraising for Clinton. South Carolina primary is on Saturday, so this is a really big deal for her in this state. And what you have here is one protester saying that we have to bring them to heel, which is in reference to this statement that Hillary Clinton made about urban youth being super predators. And what the protesters were demanding was an apology for the impact that this crime reform bill that Bill Clinton passed in 1994 has had on black communities moving forward, because we're seeing higher incarceration rates.
So how did she respond?
Well, basically what happened was the protesters were met with a bunch of boos, going back and forth. And one of Clinton's big campaign platform pillars this time around is the fact that she's saying we need to reform prison. We have to have prison reform. And so what she was saying was trying to offer up a sort of explanation for why the bill was passed in the first place, but it never really gets that far. She speaks to it a little bit, but it comes back to the talking points about how what we did before didn't work. But one of the interesting things is you can't really make it out on the picture, but there's a hashtag called Which Hillary. And so what they're saying is, are you the Hillary Clinton that you're saying you are today, or are you still this person that was campaigning in 1996?
Right. Well, but you know, people can evolve in their positions, and different times call for different measures and different socioeconomic conditions. So there is a legitimacy to her shifting her position. That having been said, it strikes me, and the criticism that's leveled at Hillary Clinton all the time is that she lacks authenticity. And arguably the reason that she's been forced to talk about this is because Bernie Sanders is talking about it. And so she is matching him and trying to move as far left as he is, just because that's where the debate is going. So there's truth or there's merit on both sides of that. Interestingly, though, she is still polling much more strongly with black voters than Bernie Sanders. He's losing by a margin of something like 3-1.
Right.
And if you look at Nevada, she won 76% of the vote, of the black vote in Nevada, and she won that state by 6 points. So it's critical for her. And she's outstripping him, and he needs to somehow find that connection. And by all accounts, he's still struggling to do that, whether it's the format. She goes and she has these more intimate encounters, these more intimate meetings. He is, dare I say it, Trump-esque insofar as he has these larger rallies because he has so many people galvanizing these people. And what analysts are saying, from what I've been reading, is that doesn't necessarily work always quite so well. The more intimate settings is more appealing to black voters, and that's part of the hurdle that he has to get over. But regardless of this protest, she is still doing very, very well with those black voters. And
you know, what we're seeing here, I think there are a couple different factors at play. You have this sort of stigma amongst the older generation of blacks, where Bill Clinton was the first black president, is, you know, like a well-known saying in the community. And it's frustrating because you have younger voters, younger black voters, like people that are participating in Black Lives Matter, like these activists that we see on the tape, that are really calling into question what the bills that were passed under the Clinton administration, how they've actually disproportionately impacted black communities or Latino communities over the decades. And in this instance, the Violent Crime Control Act that Clinton passed in '94 increased the amount of funding for prisons, it paid to put more cops on the street, and it also criminalized a wider range of crimes that we're seeing, you know, have impacted the prison systems that are overpopulated today.
And disproportionately affect black communities, and that's the point, isn't it, really? And that's what we've seen, and that's what Bernie Sanders, along with a lot of other people, and most right-minded people, are now moving that way, because the prison population is so overwhelmingly stuffed with people of color for minor crimes and minor offenses which have cultural bias. So it's a legitimate thing. The other thing that people found offensive, picking up on that, was the choice of language that she had, right? And this phrase that she used.
So what the protesters are referring to is this term called super predators. And we actually have a clip from the speech that the protesters referenced in 1996 of of Clinton explaining what a super predator is and why we should be against it.
Not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel.
Now, the super predators term was coined by a Princeton political science professor called John DeLulio in the early 90s. And what it refers to is this generation of urban youth that were growing up without, as he called it, they were growing up godless, jobless, and without a father. And basically saying that this group of people are more susceptible to gangs, they're more susceptible to violence, they're going to grow into this sort of super predator that's going to terrorize American streets. And so what you also saw happening at this time was this call from the American public to get tougher on crime. Right. And so this bill was passed in 1994, and then Bill Clinton sort of rode the re-election campaign on the fact that he had gotten tougher on crime, he had cracked down on it, and as those rates continue to fall, people kept supporting his presidency. And so in this instance, what this protester is saying is, when Clinton says we have to bring them to heel, is you're responsible for the upheaval in the black community. We want an apology. Do you at all feel responsible for this?
Right, but notwithstanding that, her position is that I'm trying to undo those, and I'm trying to address that position. But the argument being is that A, you created it, and B, you're just jumping on this bandwagon now because it's popular. My only caveat to all of that is none of this may matter. I hate to say it, but none of this may matter. She already has a quarter of the delegates. Most of them are in the form of superdelegates. So it kind of gives you an indication of the extent to which the deck is stacked. The deck is stacked in her favor. So all those arguments about mainstream and all those arguments about establishment politics and politicians are valid. Once she gets to 50%, it may not matter anymore. She's going to be unstoppable. So it's critical that he can connect, that Bernie Sanders is can connect if it's going to continue, because regardless, he has shifted the debate and shifted the narrative, and she's being forced to come and address some of these issues which she finds either difficult, unpalatable, or where she has had a contrary position. And I think that can only be a good thing.
Yeah. So in this instance, there's definitely no doubt that Hillary Clinton is going to need to secure the black vote if she plans to win the South Carolina primary on Saturday. The question is, does she deserve the black vote? And according to Black Lives Matter protesters, the answer is a strong no.